Okay, so in this week's video, I wanted to talk about a question that I had in my own head and in my own life. So something that I've noticed with a lot of women who are in my age, or just a lot of women in general, based off of how society sort of teaches you things could be. They ponder the idea of being a trophy wife or a trophy girlfriend, where basically, you stay at home, you don't need to work, you don't have to work, all of your financial needs are taken care of, and you marry a man who will basically cover all of your financial needs. And the reason why I've been thinking about this is because I've been looking for a job. I've been looking for a new job. I've been doing a combination of freelance and looking for a new job, and I haven't been getting much freelance work, so that's why I've been thinking about, well, what if I become someone's trophy wife? What if I become someone's trophy girlfriend? And I thought to myself, is that the antithesis of feminism? Because the idea of feminism is, the 1920s, women had the right to vote, became more socially acceptable after, I think, World War II or World War I, for women to have jobs. For a long time, there was this sort of stigma against women working. And it wasn't until, I think, World War II in the 1940s, with like Rosie the Riveter in that pose, where it became more socially acceptable for women to work, and women were encouraged to work because all of the men were going off to war. There'd be a huge vacuum in the labor force. And so I've been thinking to myself, is it possible for me to be both a feminist and a trophy wife simultaneously? And in the way that I've pictured it in my head is that the only way it's possible for someone to be a feminist and a trophy wife is if they don't, give up certain things. And I'm trying to figure out what exactly the boundaries are to be a feminist and to be empowered and to embrace the sort of women's rights movement while at the same time embracing all of the upside of being a trophy wife or being a trophy girlfriend. And I think the way that I figured out how to do that is to not need. And I think the way that I have figured out how to view this in a certain way in terms of being both a feminist but also being open to being someone's trophy wife is to view myself as bringing something else to the table. And I know a lot of people can go the hardcore cynical route and make it so that a woman's contribution in that sort of relationship would be purely physical, your body and sex and that sort of thing. But I think there's a way that you could approach it where you could bring more to the table that isn't just purely your body. And I think that the way to make it so that you could be a feminist and be a trophy wife simultaneously is to have something else that you bring to the table, whatever that is. Maybe you're really good at something else. Maybe your skill set is different than the partner that you're with. But I've been trying to find a way to balance the idea of being a feminist and being a trophy wife. I'm not currently one, but because a lot of the times when I look at people on the outside and they have this sort of dynamic where the wife doesn't work and she's a stay-at-home whatever, and her husband is the primary person who brings in the money. In my family, it was sort of the reverse, where my dad quit his job really early on when I was a kid, and my mom was the primary caregiver, or the primary breadwinner, that's the word. And in that dynamic, I wouldn't say my dad was the trophy husband. I wouldn't. I would say that he just handled different aspects of the household. And I think if I view it in that perspective, it can be empowering at the same time in terms of, well, I think there's a lot of sort of emotional aspects or emotional labor, as people put it, that women do that men don't do, just because they're socialized to believe that it's a sort of, a feminine thing to be emotionally in tune with yourself, with other people, with situations, but also it wasn't sort of as manly. It was more of a manly thing to be sort of closed off and to not show your emotions as much and things like that. But I think that, I don't know, I'm a young 25-year-old woman, and I've thought about this, and I've thought about this for a number of reasons. I thought about this both because, well, if I met someone that I really adored and he made a lot of money, or he just made enough money to take care of both of us, and I still don't have a job, would I be okay being in a relationship? Because I would be completely financially dependent on him. And I think the answer is no, I wouldn't be comfortable being completely financially dependent on him. I would still want my own job. But I think the way for me to be empowered at the same time is knowing that I'd be looking for a job and that I wouldn't be dependent on him because I wanted to be, but it would just be because of the situation of it all. Okay. So I guess I'm curious what other people think. Do you think it's possible to be a feminist and a trophy wife at the same time? Or is it completely impossible to have both? And to not be in contradiction with each other? Let me know.